What's the first thing that a kid wants to build if you give them a hammer? A treehouse, of course. And for the young Alex Shirley Smith, he was no different.
As a 6.5-year-old was like, right, tree houses are the way to go. And so that was kind of my direction. I went into designing tree houses first of all in kind of cartoon sketches and sucking up all this information. How do they do that? How do they envisage rope bridges? La 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 la.
Alex's treehouse passion continued and propelled him into a career as an architect.
I realised that if I wanted to be a treehouse architect, probably best that I actually qualify as a fully trained architect. Otherwise, I'd have peers of mine as I design treehouse instead I'm a treehouse architect. I'd have my peers going, yeah, but you're not a real architect, are you? So I qualified as an architect, RIBA membership, everything. So I did treehouses.
Some treehouses became castles in the air for the rich who could afford their massive building costs. But was there a better way to build a treehouse for everyone?
But then in the crash of 2007, 2008, the kind of bottom fell out of the luxury treehouse market where everybody sort of weren't paying 200 grand for a treehouse that they could live in anymore. And so I started digging back into some of the sketches I'd made during my time as an architectural student, and I came up with some tensile structures that created space using tension rather than compression in the normal kind of building way.
Most buildings, bricks and mortar, are built in compression, where one block is pressing against the other, holding it up. The idea of tension turns this on its head. The radical idea of a tension building is to hold it up by pulling it. A classic example is a suspension bridge or a tent structure held up by wires.
By making structures out of tension, you could minimize the amount of materials needed to create usable space. And instead of being, strutted to trees, became a way to make tree houses inside the space between trees.
And that's exactly what Alex did. He still had a passion for tree houses. By using tensile strength to hold up a tent, you can use less materials and use the space between the trees to build your structure.
I took my inspiration from spider webs that always use 3 anchoring points to make their webs. I knew that the trees didn't have to be in an equilateral triangle. You could always have a member that had to stretch out and grab, something further away. But inside that space of the triangle, whichever shape that triangle took, you could make a modular structure that could always be the same shape. And that is where Tentsile was born, because it was a production line pop-up treehouse in a bag.
So that's how Tentsile was born, combining tensile strength and a tent. Tentsile's design ideas quickly caught on when people saw the possibilities of camping in places not possible before, using very minimal amount of materials. Now your childhood dream of a treehouse was possible. And that dream was shared by artist Dorothy Reese Faison. She grew up in Latin America, surrounded by majestic rainforests. So when Dorothy and I moved to southwest France, in a pristine area of beautiful, ancient, deciduous forests, we knew we wanted our own treehouse. But first, we needed a forest, and luckily 12 acres of an ancient woodland came up for sale a few miles from our house.
This is the source on our way to our forest. Source is the word in French for spring. It's the dog's favorite spot to stop, and it's a great place to get fresh water for your neck and your face, and it's just part of the magic and beauty of this place. This is part of an ancient vineyard. These very massive walls that were put in order to give small little areas to plant vines. Now we have huge trees in those previously vineyard areas. So a great forest, a challenge for camping.
But we weren't the first to find this spot a compelling place to spend a night. Hidden in the center of this ancient forest is an arbourie, a hut made simply by leaning sticks against a fallen tree.
So we found this little covered area that we then augmented and cleaned up and added moss to help the rain, made it pretty sweet. We had a problem, found little tiny ticks. I thought, well, what we really need is kind of an elevated platform between trees that we could camp on. But we're restricted by what we can build. We can only kind of scramble together woods that are here, and we want to leave no trace. So we have to figure out how we can do that. We could try to build some sort of platform, something between the trees. Problem is we don't want to hurt any of the undergrowth. That's really important to the ecosystem of the forest. That is where the diversity is. And we don't want to put anything permanent, and we don't want to leave a trace. So we have to come up with some way of doing this that puts us up but doesn't injure the forest.
That's when I discovered a whole community called Tentsile. Like-minded people who want to work with the environment and leave no trace, and have come up with a practical solution for an aerial platform camping between the trees. I reached out to them at their headquarters in Sheffield, England. They were immediately excited by Dorothy's project with her forest and offered to send us for us to try their Stingray aerial tent.
Oh, this is so exciting. Tentsile has sent us the most amazing tree tent. Unbelievable dream that this will be so perfect in our forest. Everybody will see this and go, oh my God, we have to have this too. Just need to get the information out so we can find different places in our forest to put it. The questions that we need to answer are, well, the main one is, what is the optimal distance that the trees should be from each other? I mean, there will be a minimum and a maximum and an optimum. So I want to know what the optimum is. Obviously, I need to know the other three too. Wow, look at the color. Oh, it's amazing. Oh, this is the Stingray. It's got such a cool logo here. You can just see it up in the tree, and look at this color, and it's already in a bag. Whoa. This is a Tentsile Stingray. Oh, look here. It's got a picture here, and they plant trees with it. And look, it's got 3 people and 3 suitcases in case you bring a suitcase to the forest. 4 seasons, so that's perfect for us. Yay. Look at this. Look at that color. Oh my God. Beautiful. Look at this, so nice. It's so pretty. And look, it's got like a little honeycomb. Perfect design. Wow, look, each thing is in a different color. Look at this. Ooh. Stingray, stingray. Ah, ta-da! This must be the main piece. It's nice and heavy duty. It's really well made. I don't know if you can see that, but it's so beautifully made. Ah. Stingray tree tent, Tentsile. I love their logo, it's so perfect. For each one they plant 20 trees. That is so great, so other people can find perfect trees. Here's exactly what we're looking for today. Minimum setup, maximum setup distances. 45 by 45 by 45 feet within 90 degrees of each other. So we're looking for a triangle, and we'll take this and we'll take a measuring device so we can figure out the perfect trees. And actually we can move it around. We can put it in different trees at different times. Yay, okay, now we get to go to the forest. This is so exciting. We're gonna find lots of places. Hey, day in the forest, Mua. Mua's got the perfect name, Scout. Oh, Mua Mua.
And that's exactly what we're doing today, scouting for a great place to put up the tent.
Here we are in southwest France, in the Dordogne, Périgord Noir, specifically, in a beautiful deciduous forest that's been here for a very long time. This part is a hazelnut grove. We bought this beautiful natural forest for this area. We needed to do this to protect it from future encroachment, from people cutting down for wood burning stoves, for firewood. It's a habitat for many local creatures, probably foxes, badgers, owls, hawks, many species of birds. We haven't even begun to kind of document all the different areas. There's different groupings of trees. We need to go to the areas of oak trees, so we find the perfect spot, nice separate area where we have a little view and we have really strong, beautiful trees to hang our Tentsile stingray. Come on, Moa, you're supposed to be scouting. We don't have a specific path yet to different parts of our forest. We are following probably animal paths that probably is from the wild boar, the sanglier. And you can see this very narrow path that they have worked out. And the animal paths tend to be actually really good. So we're gonna do that. Go. He likes to snack along the way. We very much want to make sure we leave almost all the dead wood here because that provides habitat for lots and lots of different wild creatures, especially insects, small mammals. So you don't want to clear your forest. You want it to be as much natural habitat as possible. The amazing thing is if you spend your time being mindful in the forest, you notice things like this tree, which is old, dead, and still hanging in here, though it's about to come down in a big storm, but somebody has been rubbing against it. And it's really important to leave trees like this because they become habitats for many different creatures, and also, besides the insects, and the birds that can live in the top, and the woodpeckers, but also some probably large mammal is rubbing their horns against this. And you can see they've started on that tree as well. And it rubbed it really smooth here. Now we're getting into some much larger diameter tree trunks, most likely oak. Right there is hazelnut. You can see because it's got multiple trunks. And we're going into the one section that looks like it was managed at one time for fir trees. This is all our forest. It's just, I've never been here in the spring. We bought it in very late fall. And it's just so stunning. And I'm starting to see really big trees that we could easily use in here for hanging our Tentsile stingray up. So I think that we should be able to find the perfect spot, or many perfect spots. This is an area that we've already kind of designated as the perfect camping spot, or at least resting spot. It's a little bit looser in trees. They're larger, heavier, a little bit more distance between them. And I already see a number of triangles that would work. And we already have a picnic table that Simon made. Okay. Stingray tree tent. I love the name tree tent. I think that's so perfect. Tentsile and treats for dogs. Never can be too careful. Good move. Good boy. We have this high-tech means of measuring the distance between our trees. So we just measured this distance to get a sense of what we need. This is 23 feet. So we'd like to get a little bit wider. And I see kind of a nice place up there. So we're gonna go up and find out what that distance is. But I think this might work out perfectly. It's got, well, we have multiple trees in case one tree isn't right. We can adjust and take a different tree. But it's really kind of nice, flat, overlooking. Already has a nice kind of treetop feel. All the trees are strong, mature trees. Okay, this looks like 29. Yeah, it comes up with 29, so 31. So that would be ideal. So I think right here, this looks like the most perfect spot ever. Looking out, looking over the trees. You've got 3 mature trees. You've got extra trees in case one of them doesn't work. They look like they're the exact right distance apart, about 30 feet. I think this is the place for our Tentsile stingray. It'll be just perfect here.
So we're super excited to try our new Tentsile stingray tree tent. But would a more conventional treehouse with a solid connection to a tree actually be better?
You can build a solid form structure around more than one tree, but every time you make a solid connection to a tree, you've got to be really careful how you do that, because a tree needs to be able to flex and move and grow and sway in the wind. Tentsile at the moment just answers all of those questions for me without it needing to be a hard connection to the tree. It's a soft connection to the tree, and you put it up and take it down in 10 minutes. So you can take your treehouse hideaway wherever you go, bottom of the garden, top of the mountain, deep in the valleys, or out in the in the deltas.
So the big day has come. Dorothy and I are going to put up the stingray for the first time. We've watched the videos, we've read the instruction book multiple times. I wonder how we're going to get on. It was really fun following the instructions and putting up the tent. The build quality seemed excellent, everything was in its place, nicely wrapped, colour-coded, and yeah, it seemed to go pretty well at first. It's a super nice feature to have tree wraps. We really don't want to leave a mark on our wonderful trees, and leaving no trace is really important for us and the forest. The only hiccup we found was using the ratchet straps. We hadn't really followed the instructions and just kind of guessed how they went, and of course they ended up getting a bit overfull and tangled. But with a bit of pulling and pushing, we started again and got it right. Super exciting to see the tent rise up into the air at a bit of a jaunty angle, but at least it held our weight, and for the first time we had a tree tent. And in episode 2 of Tentsile, Tree Tents Are Us, we camp in the forest overnight with top French landscape night photographer Johan Terraza. Reveal a horrid truth of the exploitation of uneconomic forests for the wood pellet industry. More and more of us are dumping fossil fuel heating and turning to what we assume are carbon neutral wood pellets. But are wood pellets really a sustainable alternative?
Two things. One, I was hoping, or I had kind of assumed that the wood pellet industry had been born out of a byproduct of lumber, timber mills, stuff that's already going on, and you just take all that sawdust, compress it, and hey presto, you don't have to go into the woods. Now, if medium-sized trees are at risk turning into chips and sawdust, then yeah, we need to make a plan to save as many of those as possible.
In our current transition from fossil fuels to fully sustainable resources, there will be mistakes made, but we will need to correct these and keep improving our choices. In part 2, Alex comes up with a great idea to help small landowners earn a living from their forests without cutting them down. And hopefully a way of protecting ancient woodlands for us all to enjoy using tents.